or the Bangsamoro Bill. As or if you will remember, during the time of President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, the government concluded this memorandum of agreement, thus ancestral domain, with the MILF. Well, that agreement was a challenge for its unconstitutionality in the High Court. Several parties went to the court. They raised several grounds, and they prevailed. The Supreme Court struck down the agreement as unconstitutional. Also, during the time of President Noynoy Aquino, the government crafted another Bangsamoro bill, submitted it to Congress, and it did not pass muster, again because of several objections on its alleged unconstitutionality. In certain jurisdictions, that will not happen. For instance, in France, the legislature there, while in the course of passing a law, can already go to their constitutional council. In France, it's called a council, not a Supreme Court or not a constitutional court. They can already go to the council and seek an opinion on whether the bill about the bill being considered suffers from constitutional infirmities. In Germany, the practice is different. The parliament enacts a law, but before its enforcement, one-third of the members of the parliament can already solicit the opinion of the Constitutional Court on its constitutionality or unconstitutionality. That is very different from our practice, very different from our practice that was taken from the United States. In our case, that will never happen because the Supreme Court cannot issue what is known as advisory opinions. That is why the Supreme Court is sometimes assailed for its laid-back posture in this kind of cases. The court has to wait what is known as the proper case. So let's think about that practice in France, practice in Germany, and maybe that should be adopted in our own jurisdiction. Well, there are so many aspects of this shift to federalism. I understand that these other dimensions have been discussed by the other speakers. But let me come to what to my mind is the most urgent reason why the Philippines should federalize. And this is to enable the country to deal with the demands of our Muslim brothers to have their own homeland which they can govern according to their culture, religion, language, and history. This aspiration of our Muslim brothers cannot be substantially granted unless we change our unitary government. This frustration of our Muslim brothers to establish a state of their own has threatened to wreck our republic. Their cry for separation and independence has resulted in open rebellion. And worse, they are now assisted by some foreign elements. And so to date, Marawi has yet to be fully recovered by our armed forces from the Mautes, a rebel group demanding outright secession from the Philippines with the assistance of the ISIS. The rebellion is now on its fourth month, despite the declaration of martial law by our president to suppress it. It will cost the government some 50 billion pesos to rehabilitate Marawi, and the estimate is still moving up. Of course, its psychic cost is beyond estimate. You know, this demand of our Muslim brothers for self-determination, for self-rule, is not of recent vintage. They have always tried to preserve their identity during the time of the Spaniards who colonized us for 3 centuries, and the time of the United States that colonized us for about half a century. All the efforts to absorb them have failed. Neither did the subtle efforts to assimilate them succeed. There is only one way to deal with them, and that is to respect their identity and to live with them under a cooperative form of federal government. A non-symmetrical treatment of the asymmetrical can only be done successfully in a federal government. This has been the experience of Spain, the experience of Belgium, the experience of Canada, and the experience of India. In other words, it is a worldwide reality that has ceased to be a phenomenon. And finally, a federal Philippines was originally espoused by Rizal in 1898. It was endorsed by Emilio Aguinaldo and Apolinario Mabini, all of whom had a longitude vision that traverses the past, reaches the present, and promises a better future. After more than a century, perhaps it is time to listen to the call of Rizal. And I join that call for federalism now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Justice Reynato Puno. MPC question, please. Leila Salaveria from Philippine Daily Inquirer.
Good morning, sir. Sir, based on your proposal, what do you think is the best power to be given to the judiciary under a federal government? Should it have the power to motu proprio review laws, or have the power to automatically review whatever Congress passes?
Well, it will depend on how you cut the powers between the federal government and the constituent states. But overall and generally, the federal government can promulgate laws which will govern the whole country.
No, sir, I mean the judiciary. Should it have the power to, on its own, motu proprio without a case, review laws?
No, there is no jurisdiction with that kind of motu proprio power on the part of a Supreme Court or a constitutional court or a constitutional council. Still, the power of review has to be triggered, and in the case of Germany, that is triggered in extraordinary circumstances, but by a certain number of members of the parliament, by the federal government, or by the states themselves.
So, sir, do you
But
think...
they can trigger that even if there is still no case filed before the Supreme Court.
So, sir, do you see that scenario working for the Philippines when we shift to a federal government?
Well, personally, I would recommend that. As I said, look at this Bangsamoro bill now that is with Congress. You can assume that it will be submitted to microscopic examination on its alleged unconstitutionality. But assume that it passes muster in Congress. You know, if you have the German system, the members of Congress, a certain percentage, can already go to the High Court and ask whether the bill as finalized is constitutional or not.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Laila. Cedric Castillo, GMA.
Sir, good morning, sir. Sir, given the President's strong advocacy, face-to-face with our country's not-so-good track record on acting on, as you may call it, issues of transcendental importance, how likely is it that we get to federalize under this administration, sir? What are the hurdles that you see along the way, sir?
Well, the political branches of our government seem to be in favor of this shift to federalism. In fact, in Congress, you already have a resolution, or you already have a rough draft of the new constitution where federalism is embedded. This morning, I read that the party of Senate President Coco Pimentel submitted its own version of a federal form of government. On the other hand, you have a president who has made this issue a campaign issue. If you remember, federalism was an issue in the last presidential elections. There were 5 candidates, 4 were against federalism, and only one, President Duterte, was for federalism. So it's time to really put federalism on the table for discussion.
Yes, sir. How about the judiciary, sir? I mean, if someone files against the constitutionality of the move to federalize, sir, can we compel the judiciary to act on it, considering it's a transcendental issue of transcendental importance?
Well, as I said, under the present Constitution, not only under the present Constitution, but 35 Constitution, the 72 Constitution, the Supreme Court cannot do that. It has to wait for the proper case to be filed by the proper party. And it's not easy for the court sometimes to determine whether the party is the proper party.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Alexis Romero from Philippine Star.
Good morning, Justice. One of the concerns regarding federalism is it might strengthen the grip of some political dynasties in their respective areas. What do you think are the possible safety nets that can be adopted so as to prevent such scenario, considering that the Constitution is against the proliferation of political dynasties?
The solution is quite simple. You just define what is a political dynasty in the proposed new constitution. This particular problem has become complicated because the 87 Constitution did not define what is a political dynasty. The present Constitution left it to Congress to make the definition. It was 1987 then, it's now 2017, and yet there is no definition. So the 87 Constitution on political dynasty is not self-executing. So the solution is make it self-executing.
So you see the need to come up with an anti-dynasty law before a federal government can be established?
To me, that is a sine qua non condition, because you will be giving sovereign powers to the states. And the states should not be run by a monopoly, whether it's a political monopoly or an economic monopoly.
Thank you, Justice.
Thank you, CJ. Leonesca, Panti. Right, please.
Good morning, sir. About your proposed constitutional commission po, does this mean that you are for dropping the existing doctrine that the Supreme Court cannot decide on cases involving a political question?
No,
what
the
you're
suggestion will lift the bar. In other words, the Supreme Court can step in earlier. There is no diminution of power. It's just allowing the Supreme Court to step in this kind of disputes much early.
So, sir, the doctrine of political question should remain under a federal government?
The question is of political question is a different problem area.
So it should stay po, would you say?
Well, again, there should be a re-examination of the different areas involved in a political question. Perhaps after a re-examination, the Congress may widen the area or may diminish the area. It's all up to their perception, their wisdom.
Follow. So, are you saying that the Bangsamoro Basic Law cannot be implemented if we are not going to shift to a federal government?
I'm saying that it will be very difficult for this bill to overcome a constitutional challenge before the Supreme Court. Because precisely, we have a unitary government that is not empowered to grant this identity-based demands of our Muslim brothers. These identity-based demands can be granted only in a federal form of government.
So charter change should come first before we proceed to passing a Bangsamoro Basic Law.
That is the safer course.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Leonesca. Any more questions to Philip, please?
Sir, good morning, sir. You mentioned the identity-based demands. What could you, sir, specify what these demands would be and that would be unconstitutional under the present system?
Well, this will be demands, for instance, that would be distinct, peculiar because of their religion, because of their culture, and because of their history. For instance, their judicial system. There is a need to accommodate their demands to have the Sharia law be the law that will govern the state that will be given to them. That is an example. Yeah.
And on the judiciary, sir, that you discussed earlier, would this not result in a more activist court if your proposal is approved, especially given that the President has spoken about the SC issuing TROs or the lower courts issuing TROs?
I don't know whether we understand each other when we talk of an activist court. But in the sense that it will allow the court to exercise its jurisdiction earlier, then I would say that it's a more active court. But again, the reason for that is precisely in those kind of cases, you should not have an inactive court, a laid-back court, because the case is of that much importance to the country and to the people. And so the sooner the court is able to rule on the constitutionality or unconstitutionality of a law or an act, the better.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay. Any more questions? Laila again. Okay. Laila.
Good morning, sir. I'd just like to get your opinion because the PDP Laban has proposed a federal parliamentary government with the president and abolishes the office of the vice president. Do you see any merit in doing away with the vice president under a federal government?
Well, again, there are pros and cons to that proposition. You take the American model, you have a president and a vice president. But the difference is that they belong to the same party. And so you obviate the kind of problems that we have in the Philippines. Yeah.
Follow up, Laila.
Yeah.
So you're saying, sir, that that may be a better option for us to have a president and the vice president that comes from the same political party?
Well, you see the problems that result from a system where you have a president coming from one party and the vice president coming from another party. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions? No more? Okay. Rose from UNTV.
Hi sir, good morning po. Sir, nabanggit niyo po na safer po ang charter change muna bago ang BBL.
Yeah.
Sa assessment niyo po ngayon, 1 year has passed na po sa Duterte administration. On track po ba ang pamahalan sa pagsusulong ng federalism? I mean, during term po ni Pangulong Duterte, hindi ho ba tayo gagahuli ng oras?
Yeah, I like to think that the sooner there is a shift to federalism, the better. Because this shift would require a transition period. I'm not sure how long the transition period is, but the transition period is very significant because you have to make all the adjustments during this period. And it has got to be a period that is reasonable, attuned to the needs of our time and the problems that we will encounter by this shift to federalism.
Sir, isa po kayo sa inalok na maging member po ng consultative committee to review the 1987 Constitution. Formally accepted nyo na po.
There is no offer yet.
Until today.
Yes,
So, ibig sabihin, sir, wala pa rin, hindi pa rin po nabubuo or wala pong formal offer kayong natatanggap pa until now?
I do not know whether the commission has been constituted, fully constituted, but as far as I know, I have yet no appointment, and so there is nothing to accept.
Pero sir, if binigyan kayo ng offer, ano po ang inyong magiging tugon?
I have been advocating for federalism even before it became a political issue. That has been my advocacy for a long, long time.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, one more question. Let's get back to Cedric.
Sir, sorry, I already asked this earlier, pero just to follow up on the last question, sir. Ano pong hurdles yung nakikita nyo, sir, dun sa pag-federalize ng government pa, if any?
Well, it will depend on a lot of factors. But if the changes in the new constitution, if the changes that will be wrought by this shift to federalism would be radical, then, the factors that could prove to be impediments would be, for instance, if there would be a prohibition on political dynasties, then you have to contend with that, because that is given. We have a lot of political dynasties in our Congress. And then if the form of federal government would be federal parliamentary, then you would need to build up the political party system. You have to re-examine the powers of whatever body, COMELEC, or whatever commission that will run and administer our system of election. And then, again, another factor would be, mapping out the landscape of the whole country. You look at the regions, you look at its political, social, and economic developments, and see whether they can really be given the status of full states. In other words, whether they can be viable and sustainable.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chief Justice Reynato Puno.
Thank you,
Maraming
sir.
salamat po.
Yes.
Okay. Presidential Spokesperson Undersecretary Ernesto Abella.
Thank you, sir. A few statements. The common station to break ground today. Tomorrow, September 29, the Department of Transportation will finally mark the construction of the common station, an infrastructure project that will connect 4 major railways, LRT-1, MRT-3, MRT-7, and the Metro Manila subway. The common station aims to provide seamless transfer of passengers from one railway line to another and a convenient walk for platform transfers. The common station project started in 2009 but went through a few legal entanglements on the issue of location, and it was only during the Duterte administration when we got all stakeholders to agree on a location for the common station. Principal stakeholders signed an agreement to build the common station between SM North and Trinoma with an area of 13,700 square meters and is expected to be completed by April 2019, ending an 8-year impasse over the project. Other items, ADB positive on Philippines' economic growth. In its Asian Development Outlook 2017 update, the Asian Development Bank stated that the Philippine gross domestic product is expected to reach 6.5% in 2017, which can be attributed to the improved implementation of the government's projects, resulting in public investments in infrastructure and social services. On the matter of PAL's unpaid charges, the matter of Philippine Airlines' unpaid charges has existed since past administrations. At issue is that the then government-owned PAL enjoyed privileges, namely waiver of landing, takeoff, and other fees. However, such privileges no longer apply to the airline as a franchise has now been sold to a private entity. As per Department of Transportation Secretary Arto Tugade, they have demanded full payment of all unpaid charges as early as August 2016. PAL's unpaid navigational fees and other charges due to government as of 26 September 2017 is as follows. Payable to CAAP, total collectible, 6,965,146,149.63 as of 30 July 2017. Payable to MIAA, current 322,112,385 as of 26 September 2017. Final demand for full payment of all unpaid charges has been sent to PAL by the DOTR preparatory to the filing of appropriate legal action in order to protect the interest of the government. On House Resolution 1337, we welcome House Resolution 1337 expressing support for the President's appeal to the United States government to return the Balangiga bells to the Philippines. Today, September 28, the nation remembers the 116th anniversary of the heroism and gallantry of our forebears in the municipality of Balangiga in Eastern Samar, and we also reiterate our call for the rightful return of the bells to the country. The Balangiga bells are integral to our national heritage, and the return of these historical relics is crucial to our collective memory and sense of nationhood. On the national budget's transmittal to the Senate, we hope that the Senate can swiftly approve its own version of the proposed bill on the national budget so that our lawmakers can start working to harmonize their versions of the bill when a bicameral conference committee is convened. The submission of the proposed 3.767 trillion budget last July 24 marks the first time since the administration of former Fidel V. Ramos that the budget proposal is submitted on the day of the President's State of the Nation address. The rationale behind this is to give Congress ample time to review the budget and early time to approve it. The proposed budget for 2018 is 12.4% higher than our 2017 budget, and through our 2018 national budget, we hope to lay down the foundation for a matatag, maginhawa, at panatag na buhay as anchored in our Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022. On the call to confer the late Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago of the Quezon Service Cross, the Office of the President welcomes moves to confer the late Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago of the Quezon Service Cross. The late Senator's contribution to the country is beyond question. The President highly respects the lady. We look forward to receiving the resolution of the Senate. On the CHED issue, the Office of the Executive Secretary, Senior Deputy Executive Secretary, has given guidance on the issue. Per OES SDAS, the decision or order of the Ombudsman remains executory, notwithstanding any other decision of the Court of Appeals which has not yet attained finality. But the office will still defer to the judgment of the CHED regarding the matter. We're open to a few questions.
Okay. Maricela Lili from TV5, please. Mike, please.
Hi, sir. Good morning. Sir, just on the issue of SBMA, what is now the plan of President Duterte for Martin Dino, sir?
Um, as of our last statement, he has not been offered any position in any part of the government as of yesterday. Okay, so I cannot speculate on anything except that he has not been offered any at this stage.
Because, sir, according to Mr. Dino, he already accepted the offer to be the Undersecretary of DILG, and it seems that maybe he said you're not just aware because you were not present during a meeting somewhere, I think.
As far as I'm privy to, the offer was made earlier, much earlier. However, and that was apparently before this situation occurred, where he was replaced. On the other hand, as far as that's just a small portion of what I know. On the other hand, as I was informed, there has been no official appointment as of yesterday.
Okay. Sir, may we know lang po the reason of the President why he chose Ms. Wilma Esma to head SBMA over Martin Dino?
I'm not. I don't have the official statement, but I'm sure one of the reasons is because of the apparent competence of the new administrator.
Does it have something to do, sir, with the alleged complaints of some of the employees of SBMA with the style of leadership of Mr. Dino, sir?
It may have been, but it's not part of the. It's not part of the official statement.
What is now the instruction of the President, sir, given that Mr. Dino is saying that there is alleged corruption in some of the personnel in SBMA?
I have no comments regarding that matter. Mr. Dino will is allowed his own opinion.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Maricel. Hannah, follow-up on Dino.
Sir, can you confirm? Sabi kasi ni Acting Secretary Catalino Cuy, may papers daw na sinabit sa Office of the President para sa appointment ni Dino na maging USEC po ng DILG.
We can clarify that, but as per the Office of the Executive Secretary, there was none.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Follow-up. Tuesday muna, Philip. Tuesday, please.
Hi, sir. Sir, clarify lang. You said earlier na previous. Ibig sabihin, may offer sa kanya before, but then binawi. For what reason?
That I don't know if it was... apparently, there was an incident, as far as I know, apparently there was an incident where it was, it may have been offered. However, this was prior to the replacement. Okay, so let's just go by that. It was fine. The President finally decided that the administration, the two positions should be conflated into one office and under one person.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Dino, Philip.
Yes, sir.
So, sir, the offer should be considered as withdrawn already.
I don't know if it's withdrawn, but it has been superseded as far as we can see.
Superseded. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Question about former SBL. Yeah.
Sir,
Danesca.
good morning po.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, about Martin Dino, VACC is claiming that Martin Dino was replaced because corrupt supporters of the president want Mr. Dino out of SBME. So how do you respond to that?
That is the opinion of the ACC.
So you don't share the same opinion?
That is their opinion.
Okay. Thank you, Danesca. Dino issue? No more. Other issues? Okay. Cedric?
Sir, good afternoon. Sir, on Bamboo Triad, Taiwan is requesting or urging the Philippine government to clarify and show proof dun sa statement ni President. Bamboo Triad na po yung nag-take over ng Shabu operation, sir. How does the palace plan to address this?
As per his interview, I think yesterday with, he has a TV interview, I think yesterday, he did say that he was not blaming any particular country, but that there was organized crime that was behind all these drug traffic. And he did refer to Bamboo Triad.
Sir, ano po ang source ng intel ni Pangulong Duterte? May we know dun sa bamboo triad po na?
As far as this is speculation, as for my part, which I don't normally do. No, but as per his statements, he has very credible sources and credible international sources.
Sir, just to clarify, sir, is the president saying the Chinese, clarify naman niya,
Nationalities of
Apo,
Chinese
apo.
nationality.
Yes, sir. Hindi naman bansa yung sinabi niya.
Hindi niya sinabing bansa.
Are no longer into it when he said na taken over na by the bamboo triad. This is saying the Chinese people of the Chinese descent are no longer into shabu transactions or operations. Is he saying that, sir?
I'm assuming that the bamboo triad are of Chinese ethnicity. They're not. They're Chinese. They may be Chinese nationals, but they're not government sponsored. I think that's what has to be cleared.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Cedric. Any more questions, MPC? From CNN. Mike, please.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon. Sir, the Ombudsman will be investigating the wealth of the Duterte family. Does the President have any thoughts about this reaction on this already?
Like he has said, the Ombudsman has been continually investigating him. And it is for them really to, in other words, it's not anything new. He leaves it to their, he respects as we said yesterday, he respects their internal processes. And if at all, and if they really truly have substantial evidence, then we trust their impartiality on the matter.
Thank you.
Follow up. Alexis?
Is the palace declaring a holiday
When?
for the ASEAN?
Hindi po official, but I'm sure the statement will be forthcoming.
So yung mga kumakalat sa internet, hindi pa po
Hindi po siya
confirmed?
official. Hindi po siya official.
Thank you, Yusek.
Thank you, Alexis. Last two questions. Leonesca and Rose. Leonesca.
Sir, about the SWS survey po
Yes.
on anti-drug operations of the
Yes.
police. Sir, more than half of Filipinos do not believe that suspects are resisting arrest, and also half of those surveyed also believe that there are people who are pinpointing their enemies as drug personalities or drug dependents so that the police or the vigilantes could kill them. So how do you address this prevailing sentiment again, apparently against the war on drugs?
Okay, first and foremost, let me bring you back that as per the recent presentation of DFA Secretary Alan Cayetano, the international community of nations accepts the Philippine position regarding the way we're handling the campaign against drugs. On the other hand, we also, of course, SWS, we regard them with the respect. On the other hand, we do find some of their questions rather leading and leading to conclusions which could, in a sense, sway the respondents to answer in such a manner. We just find it a little bit. We find some portions of those questions rather leading. So at this stage, we hold a rather distanced position on their opinion.
Sir, regardless of whether the questions were leading or not, there were significant number who agreed to that question. So it is not the percentage is not alarming or suspect. How do you describe it?
Considering the fact that most people have approved and do continue to approve the president, his actions and his intentions, these quote-unquote results, which you call alarming, refer to as alarming, seem to have been, I don't know, it's kind of surprising. So we attribute it to, it's surprising vis-a-vis the approval of most people, 86% and 70, it's in the high percentiles. So it's a little bit surprising that there's this sudden shift. Seems to be a sudden shift in the approval, in the perception.
Sir, do you expect this survey on the war on drugs to improve, or do you expect the public to win back the support of the public for
we
the
don't
war?
need.
War,
I don't think
war
the
on
president
drugs?
needs to win back anything. The president needs to continue doing what he's doing, because we believe, based on recent surveys also, the approval rating is very, very high, and the acceptance of what he does is very, very high. So this is rather surprising that seems to be this shift.
Thank you, Renesca.
Thank you, sir.
One more. Okay. Second to the last, Ms. Roscos.
Sir, sundutin ko lang po sa consultative committee.
Yes, ma'am.
Ano na po yung update dun, sir? Kasi last time, parang nag-send na po kayo ng parang invitation for nominees po sa 25-member consultative committee. Ilan na po yung nag-confirm or nag-accept?
Ma'am, we don't have official. We don't have official report on that.
Bakit po, sir, ganun natatagalan po, sir?
Ma'am, there are processes that have to go through.
Like what po?
That I'm not privy to.
Sir,
Thank you.
in relation to that question po, hindi po kasi ganun kadali para po yung pagdaanan na proseso para po magkaroon tayo ng federal form of government. Naitanong ko po yung bagay na yan kasi hindi po ba ito ang dahilan kung bakit kahit may 5 taon na po ang Pangulo ay fino-float niya na po ang idea ng preferred successor niya, yung kanyang anak, para i-push yung federalism.
Ma'am, I think how did you connect? That's a breathtaking jump, from
Yes, sir. Kasi
federalism to-
hanggang ngayon po, bagamat nung campaign period pa lang ay sinusulong na ng Pangulo ang federalism.
Yes, ma'am.
Pero 1 year na po ang nakalipas. Until
Yes.
now, wala pa pong nangyayari dun sa consultative
I think
committee.
hindi naman siguro, I don't think it's fair to say walang nangyayari. I think
I mean,
umuusad, pero may kabagalan.
Yun nga po.
Oh, yun.
Bakit po mabagal at ano pong nakakapigil para isulong?
Katulad yan nung pinexplika sa atin kanina, yung the way our government is structured, medyo may kabagalan dahil because of the present structure nga.
Mahirap po bang maghanap ng tao dun po sa 25-member consultative committee? Walang nag-a-accept po kasi
Ma'am, I think that's another breathtaking conclusion na walang nag-a-accept. I think people are being vetted, and I believe, as far as I'm concerned, people have already been tapped, and I think they're just waiting for the right time.
Salamat, Rose. Last question. Cedric?
Sir, sorry, balikan ko lang yung bamboo trial, sir. When you said that the president is not blaming any country in particular, are you saying there is no need for the government to show proof of such allegations, sir?
To show proof to whom?
Taiwan is asking for proof daw dun sa allegations sa bamboo trials.
Well, that needs to be brought to the attention of the president, and if he finds it necessary, he will respond.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, MPC. One more?
Yes, ma'am.
Final, one more, sir. Maricel.
Sir, quick lang. Ano lang po yung agenda ni Presidente with the meeting this afternoon with Citra?
We don't have the end yet. Okay. We can find out. We can tell you later. Thank you.
Thank you, Presidential
Sure.
Spokesperson Undersecretary Ernesto Abella and Chief Justice Reynato Puno. MPC, magandang tanghali po. Back to PTV4 and Radyo Pilipinas.